All right, and we are live. You know the deal. While we wait for everybody to get in here, I am going to retweet my live streams, and then we'll get started. I hope everybody's doing fantastic today. Alexander Mercurius said about Zelensky. Zelensky is known for his drug addiction, and gambling is related to that. A gambler always doubles down on his bets. I don't even know if he's in that position, honestly. I don't even know if he has a choice. I think he's stuck. He's very much pigeonholed into where he's at. So I don't really think that there's a ton that he can do to really get around that and get out of it. I love you too, Tyrone. Norway, greetings from Moscow. Welcome in, everybody. I'm going to go retweet my live stream real fast, and then we'll get started. We got some bigger topics to talk about today. Not so much map updates, but we got a lot going on. Oh, I finally catch a stream from the start. Happy Kalibrated Happy Christmas, everybody. Happy holidays. Happy New Year's. This will probably be my last stream for a little while. I have a lot of family coming into town that I'm entertaining this weekend, so we got a lot going on. I don't know how often I will be available to stream. I will continue posting, and I'll continue doing map updates and everything like that, but I just don't know if I'm going to be able to get a stream in. So I appreciate you all being in here, and we'll make today a very, very good one to leave us off on. France, Sweden, Ireland, Virginia, South Wakanda, Germany, Oregon City, Oregon, Germany, and Hungary. Welcome in, everybody. I hope everybody's doing good today. We have, like I said, not a ton of map updates. I'm going to talk about some more of the bigger picture stuff that's going on and how it's beginning to affect the battlefield. We're going to talk about some recent events that have happened, some Ukrainian strikes, some Russian strikes. We're going to get into that. Some new things we're seeing on the battlefield. There's a lot to talk about. So let's see, what else do we have in here? North Wales, Spain, nice. All right, live now. Boom, and all right, we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome in, everybody. This is episode 125 of Kalibrated Live with your host, the one, the only, the annoying, the insufferable Scott here for you. Today's stream, I really want to focus on the period of time that remains before Trump comes into office. So a lot of what I'm going to be talking about is directly related to the 30 or so days that we have left. Maybe not 30 days now until Trump is inaugurated. It's the 21st. He is inaugurated on the 19th or something like that. So about 30 days. We got a month. And the situation on the front line for the Ukrainian armed forces continues to deteriorate daily. There seems to be a complete inability for the Ukrainian government to mobilize men aged 18 to 25. While it's not a huge demographic of men, it would definitely bolster the Ukrainian army and would at least stave off the manpower shortages that they've been experiencing. And you know, this is, of course, in 3 to 5 months when these soldiers are actually present on the battlefield after being mobilized because of an express training regiment and whatnot. But the Ukrainian government just doesn't seem like they want to do it. I don't know if it's just domestically Zelensky isn't, won't survive that sort of move. It's very, very unpopular right now to mobilize this group of men. So the Ukrainian government just doesn't seem willing to do it. And really, what I think this war is going to come down to in terms of how long it will last is, will that mobilization happen? And then will the U.S. continue supporting Ukraine after Trump gets into office in the way that they have been now, and not in a way that seeks peace, right? Because there's a difference between, I would say, threats of continuing to support, and trying to get Putin into a place of negotiation, and then actually committing to supporting Ukraine in the long term if Putin decides to not come to the negotiating table because all the positions are just too far separated from where they need to be to actually negotiate. So we'll see in the coming days whether that process is undertaken. It doesn't necessarily have to happen in the next couple of days, but the longer they wait, the worse the situation on the front line becomes, and the less effectual that mobilization of manpower will become. So, yeah, the Ukrainians are on the clock. The Ukrainian regime is now behaving like and I've said this before, a cornered animal. They don't have options. They don't have a ton of free agency in what they can and can't do. And there's a very narrow path for them to go forward. And the path that I had predicted that they're going to take, and what it seems like they are taking, is this escalatory path, a path where they don't have the means in terms of, like, let's say, ATACMS or Storm Shadow Western Strike systems. They don't have the means to actually do cumulative damage inside of Russia with these weapons, right? The goal of these weapons is as a geopolitical chess piece. Every time one of these strikes happens, the Ukrainians are trying to accomplish so much more than just what the strike you're seeing is actually, doing. Like the target is not necessarily the objective. The objective is the response from Russia, the continued escalation between the West and Russia, and hopefully an eventual, I have a hard time seeing Europe or the United States actually put boots on the ground in Ukraine, but such an overwhelming amount of support that the Ukrainians can at least continue fighting for some period of time. And then hopefully you can find a way to get a European peace army in there and then a ceasefire or something like that, right? That's the only way forward for the current Ukrainian regime, right? The current Ukrainian government cannot negotiate with Russia. There will be an internal coup. They will be replaced. Something like that will happen before negotiations happen. The West's position, at least the United States' position, is one that Russia is very openly not going to go along with, which is a ceasefire. And Europe's position is different from Ukraine's position and the US's position. So you have 4 separate groups who are going to try to negotiate with, first off, you have these 3 separate groups, Ukraine, Europe, and the United States, who are all going to try to negotiate with each other before they then negotiate with Ukraine, maybe, but mostly Russia, right? So that's part of the problem when you see these negotiations, is that the West has to negotiate with themselves, and they do so much of this negotiating between each other that when they come to the table with the actual adversary that they need to negotiate with, their position is just completely outlandish and fictional. Basically, is what we're talking about. So, because there's too much interference and there's too many, we need this. This is a non-starter. This, that, and the other. So, this month is going to be, I would say, probably the most brutal in terms of what I would describe as terroristic acts by the Ukrainian state, things that are not deemed military targets, not deemed of high military value, and are solely being done to cause escalation and to worsen any chance of negotiations between Russia and the United States. The bombing of the Russian general in Moscow is a prime example of that. This was the nuclear, biological, and chemical, the guy who headed up that department. Not really a big deal. I mean, it's not as if this person isn't going to be replaced, right? There's somebody who's already in his position doing his job already. It's not a gigantic military loss. It is acceptable, I would say, potentially in terms of the targeting. However, location being so far away from the front and the use of an IED attached to a scooter to do the job is why I would consider it a more terroristic event. It would be similar if Russia did it to Zelensky or somebody in Ukraine, right? If Budanov woke up tomorrow, walked out of his house, and an IED went off, I would say that is sort of a terroristic act by Russia, even though it is accomplishing a military objective. It's still that sort of gray area borderline where, should you really be setting off IEDs inside of cities with civilians? maybe not. So that's sort of where I put that. Along with that, I'm also expecting ATACMS and Storm Shadow strikes on incredibly sensitive targets, potentially nuclear, potentially political, because the use of Western weapons to impact Russia culturally or something like that is going to have a much wider effect than striking an airbase or something like that with ATACMS, which for one probably won't be that visible and is a realistic target. So the Russians aren't going to respond in the same way. In terms of Russian response, we've seen 3 ATACMS strikes ish potentially. We have recently seen strikes on Donetsk for the first time in a little while with HIMARS, as well as a HIMARS strike in the Kursk region. The HIMARS strike in the Kursk region did result in the death of 6 Russian civilians, including 1 child. So again, you're seeing pointless Ukrainian shelling into civilian areas of Russia, trying to achieve a result by using Western weapon systems for these terroristic attacks, right? So the Russian response, we did see what appears to be a significant Russian response to the recent strikes. I don't know which one particular it was a response to, but the Russians did target Kiev with a number of Iskander ballistic missiles. And it does appear that one of the airports in Kiev, a large warehouse, was struck, as well as the rooftop of a rooftop of a building in downtown Kiev that the Russians are claiming the SBU was using for an intelligence center. They had set up in the top of this building and directly struck it. And it did appear as though it was a Russian strike. I had some people in my chat on Telegram claiming that it was a air defense interceptor that missed. It's clearly not, guys. The missile comes down from the top. It directly penetrates through the building and does a significant amount of damage. It's very easy to tell the difference between air defense and ballistic missiles. One is a penetrator, so you will see a penetration of the building. The other is not, and it's going to be more damage to the facade of the building. So that's the difference. It's easy for you to tell. I do believe that this was a deliberate strike. I do believe that they struck it a number of different targets in Kiev in that area. I don't know if it was all in the same building. They don't release all of the footage, all of the videos, so it's hard to tell what exactly was hit, how it was hit, what casualties were done. But this does appear to be the first at least applicable retaliation from the Russians to the Ukrainians for these strikes inside of Russia. There was the larger missile strike the other day that targeted Ukrainian energy infrastructure, but I think that those are more or less planned out. I don't really think that those are retaliatory in any nature. Even though the Russian MOD might say they are retaliatory, they don't appear that way to me. So yeah, that's basically the situation on the ground. Expect 30 days of chaos from this point moving forward. Expect, like I said, we could be looking at something akin to the Caracas event. What we saw today, large drones that appear to be launched out of potentially Kazakhstan or somewhere in Central Asia, struck buildings in Kazan, Russia, residential buildings. It was like a mini 9/11 is what it looked like. There's drones just flying into buildings, doing some damage to windows and offices or houses, but no real significant damage, and it didn't do anything. Again, just trying to poke the bear. It's what they're trying to do. They're trying to change the equation somehow because they're losing right now. And you can really start to see this in the way Zelensky is talking to the press. He cussed yesterday, called Putin a effing terrorist, which is comical when in the next 10 to 15 minutes, it seemed from that statement, the Ukrainian armed forces struck with HIMARS and killed more people in Kursk than the Russians did with 5 Iskanders in Kiev. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but logic and reasoning are not traits that are appeased when you are talking about Ukrainian decision making and Ukrainian statements and the hypocrisy and the lies that come out of that side in particular. So, yeah, just expect that the hits to come for Russia. The hits are going to come, and we're going to see. Again, I would not be surprised if you saw something like Caracas, the mall attack. If you see something like the St. Petersburg cafe bombing, something like that. Another general potentially getting hit by an IED. Ukrainian intelligence service is basically the only thing that's actually operating at an efficient level anymore. And they're really just piggybacking on that and hoping that it carries them through. So expect more strikes on intelligence targets, SBU buildings, stuff like that in Ukraine. But yeah, I will go ahead and get into the updates. I hope everybody is doing good. Remember, guys, if you want to follow me, you can find the links to my Telegram, Twitter, and Patreon all in the description there. All right, go over to the map and we'll go through some updates today. Okay. All right. Up in the Kupiansk area, we have a Russian advance to the south of Kuryakivka towards Zorizove. This is just a small advance in this pocket, but remember, this area is getting much, much tighter for the Ukrainians. They're soon going to have to retreat back to Borova from this area. So this entire bridgehead here is, again, just getting tighter and tighter and tighter for the Ukrainians. Up here, not a ton of movement. The Ukrainians are desperately trying to hold this, and I just still don't get it. They're trying to hold this so aggressively that the Russians are now actually able to cross the Oskil in multiple different areas. And there are reports now that the Russians have again crossed the Oskil in the Senkove area down here. So somewhere in this area, there is reportedly a small crossing. That it's just more bad news for the Ukrainians in this area. I don't get the plan here. It's just... It's almost like they're the only plan that I can see is just hold everything, just hold. And what that is now doing is costing them tremendously in manpower, and it doesn't make any sense to me. But I don't think that they're going to stop doing that basically until we see a complete collapse in the Ukrainian armed forces. All right. Okay, moving down now to Toretsk, we just have a small advancement in the direction of this mine here in central Toretsk. The battle for Toretsk is kind of coming to an end. A majority of the infrastructure of the city has been captured by the Russians. It's just going to be time clearing all of these buildings and slowly pushing out. And then the battle for Konstantinivka will be set. So... getting there. This is the last large defensive area for the Ukrainians inside of the city. All right. Moving over to the Pokrovsk section, we have a small advancement to the southwest of Pokrovsk in the direction of Vovkove, as well as the Russian forces have entered the village of Peshane. This entire village is now in the gray zone. And it is likely, guys, that the Russian armed forces have DRG activity now up into Pokrovsk, like we have mentioned here. It is likely that most of this area right here is kind of gray zone. And then the city is under Ukrainian control. All right, down south, the Russians continue to move along this highway. As I had talked about, remember, it's the only highway in this entire area until, the very back of it. And that area that I'm talking about is, of course, the area that I have outlined here in yellow, where I made my prediction that the Russians were going to push out into this salient because it's rather open for them. And this was actually way before the Russians quickly advanced in this area. So now this just kind of looks like the natural progression. Of course, they're just going to move that way. But previously, the line was much flatter over here, and this was not as obvious. All right, but the progress down this road, Russians have entered and captured most, if not all, of Novo-Olenivka. They have also advanced into the eastern edge of Yukonika, as well as just advanced the line here north of Zoroy. So, yeah, not huge advances. The news has been very slow these past 3 days. I was supposed to do a live stream yesterday, but there was just not enough news to even make it worthwhile. So, yeah. All right. Down here in Kharkov, the Russian forces have advanced through the rest of this residential area here, capturing some of these houses. This public prosecutor's office, I guess. This entire area. Now, all that is left is the industrial zone, which, let me remind you, is under direct fire control line of sight by the Russians across the river. Remember that this area up here is the high ground, so they can look down basically on the back of Kharkov. And what the Ukrainians are talking about is an absolutely deplorable situation here. Moving in and out of the city, they are constantly being targeted by FPVs, ATGMs, mortars, everything as they try to enter into it. And what I've heard, this is just rumors, is that most of the Ukrainian presence here has been removed, and the Ukrainian presence that remains is incredibly weak because of the very poor supply situation and the inability to rotate effectively in this area. This is another encirclement here that we're looking at now. As I mentioned, the Ukrainians only have this road to work down, and the Russians can easily interdict traffic on said road. So this pocket is difficult, and it's getting more and more difficult by the day. And we should see this wrap up probably around January time. All right, the final advance here is just to the north of Storozheve. Again, we've seen, if I was actually going to take you guys over to Deep State Map just so I can kind of show you what the Ukrainians are showing. Oh, wait. Okay. So just to show you what the Ukrainians are showing here. The Ukrainians are showing that Markivka is still controlled by the Ukrainians somehow. It's been like that for days now, right? It's been under Ukrainian control, but the Russians have come up and crossed here. There's no road for this garrison to be, exfilled. They can't get out of this area. So according to the Ukrainian sources, there is an encirclement. I don't believe that this is happening. I don't think that this encirclement is here. I believe that this is pro-Ukrainian hope that is trying to make up for the fact that they are getting pushed back quite aggressively. And then as you can see up here, the advance through these fields is again putting Storozheve into another encirclement. And this is what you're going to just kind of see the entire way up into Velika Novosilka. And then Velika Novosilka is also looking at an encirclement where the road to the north is cut and the road to the west right here is under Russian fire control. And likely there are DRG units that are operating near or on this road at this time. So again, you're looking at one encirclement here, potentially two. You're looking at another encirclement here in Kharkov. You're looking at an encirclement up here in the north around Kupiansk. The situation is just not particularly good anywhere for the Ukrainians. Even the Kursk region has got extremely tight, very small for the Ukrainians. It's basically now just Struzda is what is holding on and part of the border region here. So not particularly good. Nothing I can say is going particularly well for the Ukrainians. Even their attempts to escalate makes it seem like things aren't going particularly well, right? Drones into buildings is not a sign of strength in my particular opinion. So, all right. One more area that I did want to talk about today is the Antonovsky Bridge area and Kherson. So we have seen a massive uptick in Russian shelling. Apparently for the past 5 or 6 days, the Russians have just been hammering Kherson with artillery. It does look like this is a preparation to enter into Kherson again. The Russian forces have advanced up into the Dacha area, reportedly around the Antonovsky Bridge. So that is a good sign that the Russians are planning to perform a river crossing here at some point. And remember, guys, this river is decently navigable by small boats. So they can do small crossings. It might be difficult, but it does appear that the Russians are going to start putting an immense amount of pressure on Kherson to really, again, stretch the map. Remember, if you want the east to fall, pull all of Ukraine's troops down over here to the south, right across the river, force them back, force them to hold on to this, or if they don't do that, create massive problems for them down there. Those are sort of the options. So keep an eye on Kherson as well. Hashtag free Luigi. Yeah, that seems like a psyop to me. That whole thing seems very fishy. That CEO killing. Pretty sure that CEO was about to testify. And I'm pretty sure that I've never seen a individual perp walked like he's Lex freaking Luthor. I don't know what that was, but it makes it look like it's a show, right? And when it looks like that, I get a gut feeling that something very suspicious is going on. Like, why do you walk him out like he is Hannibal Lecter and you gotta show him off to the world? I literally don't get it. It doesn't make any sense. And it just seems like a show. It seems like some people wanted that CEO killed because he was about to testify and it was going to not go well for people who need to make money. And then I don't know if they just got a vulnerable man and maybe he did it out of his own free will. I'm not sure. But that perp walk, I mean, have you guys ever seen anything that looks more like a soap opera? Like, he had 90 million cops came in on a helicopter, like orange suit, and he's got his like shuffling. It's like, bro, what is this? But what is in it for Luigi? Oh, here's the thing about sad, depressed individuals, especially men between the age of 18 and 35. They will blow themselves up for women, right? So you take a depressed, lonely, sexless individual. I'm not saying that's what Luigi was, but you get these people that are in a very vulnerable part of their life and you set them in a direction. And I believe that intelligence agencies do that quite frequently. Not saying that that's what this was. I have no evidence for any of this. I'm just looking at the whole situation and going, that's suspicious. Well, why do you kill? Why does the guy kill the CEO of the company right before he's about to testify? Right? Something's wrong. And I can't put my finger on it. Maybe this guy was just like, I'm going to go get him back because he didn't approve a claim or something like that. But I don't know. I'm not saying that he wasn't a ladies' man. I'm not saying that he was an incel. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that you take somebody who was doing really good in their life, something very bad happened to them, and there's a lot of hate and rage in that person, and you can just put them in a direction, and those people sometimes kill people. Not saying that's what happened. Again, I have no proof, no evidence. I'm not making any claims. Bridge update. The main bridge in Velika Novosilka was destroyed by Russian fabs. The bridge between Andrivka. Yeah, so if you guys wondered where those are, the bridge in Velika Novosilka, I believe. Actually, don't know which one it is. There's actually quite a few bridges in Velika Novosilka that are of importance. There's also this one to the north, which I don't think is actually there anymore. But there are a few bridges. And then the one between Andrivka and is it right here? I think this bridge. The one between Andrivka and Constantinople. Yeah, it's that one. This bridge got absolutely battered. This one got hit hard. Like two separate fabs, I think. Or maybe the bridge here looked a little bit thicker, I thought. Maybe I'm looking at the wrong bridge. No, I think it's that one. Yeah, pretty sure it's that one. Got rocked. Do you follow any other channels, blogs on the war? Well, I mean, I have all my sources on Telegram and stuff. I watch the Duran sometimes if it's Ukraine related, not as often. I mean, geopolitically Ukraine related, yes. I am engrossed in all of the military stuff, so I don't need to watch like other people who are doing Ukraine military analysis. I think that that's a very bad idea. I also think that YouTubers like to get views and like to get clicks, and they will do they will say things that aren't necessarily accurate or true to exaggerate, and you know, I don't like to go down that road, so I don't bring those ideas into my analysis. And I think that's something that can happen when you're watching too many other people, is you just start parroting, and it's like an echo chamber, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. So History Legends does great videos, but History Legends' videos are amazingly produced. And when you produce something like that, it is usually delayed. So it's great for an audience who has no time to keep up on what's happening. For me, all of History Legends videos are like 2 weeks delayed. Like I already know what has happened. He goes into depth, so I might get some additional information. But yeah. All right. I had a couple articles that I wanted to talk about real fast. And then we can ask some questions. So here was one of the articles that I was talking about. Ukraine faces difficult decisions over acute shortage of frontline troops. This is a super sad article, by the way. Depleted army is increasingly made up of older men, but Zelensky is reluctant to lower the mobilization age from 25 to 18. Excuse me. On a recent icy afternoon in the western Ukrainian city of Koval, a silver-haired man in military fatigues prepares to board a train. A small boy hugged him at the knees, reluctant to let go. "Come on, Dima, say goodbye to Granddad," his mother told him, pulling him away. This is like also how you start propaganda. So not that this isn't happening, and it's very sad, but also just keep in mind that that's exactly how you start a propaganda story. Like word for word. A few minutes later, the train pulled out of the station with the man on board, headed on a long journey to the east of the country. A very, very long journey, like an eternity, towards the front lines in the fight against Russia. Daughter and grandson, both in tears, waved up from the platform. So there's the propaganda, guys. Got your little dose in right there. Story may or may not have happened. It doesn't matter. The point is that now you're emotionally invested. Similar scenes now play out frequently in Ukraine, where the depleted and exhausted army is increasingly made up of older men. It's been like that for over a year. Pretty crazy, huh? That you guys are just now starting to pay attention. Where the depleted and exhausted army is increasingly made up of older men, as the country approaches 3 years of full-scale war with Russia, and waits uneasily for the arrival of Donald Trump in the White House. An acute personnel shortage at the front line presents a dilemma. Oh, you don't have people because you've been running into pockets and, grinding up everybody? Crazy. President Vladimir Zelensky has resisted public calls from the Biden administration to lower the age at which men can be mobilized from 25, where it currently stands, to 18, citing the sensitivities of sending younger men to fight in a society that already faces a demographic crisis. But with Russia continuing to find recruits for its grinding advances, the army is struggling to find enough people to fill the gaps at the front. A series of interviews with Ukrainian officers who spoke anonymously, given the sensitivity of the issue, it's very sensitive, paint a worrying picture for Ukraine's war effort. Okay. So, boys, I just want to bring this up. About a year and a half ago, I was called a Russian propagandist for saying literally this word for word, and saying that this was going to be the topic of conversation here when you run out of people. No, Ukrainian casualties are 1 to 6 for Russia, right? 6 Russians die for every 1 Ukrainian. Yeah, that's awesome and fantastic. Why do you have a manpower shortage? Why are the Russians able to take 1 to 6 casualties, and yet you're the only side that is unable to fill trenches? Right? So the math isn't mathing. The math has always not mathed in Ukraine. It's why it's so corrupt. It's because you can just do 2 plus 2 and make it equal whatever you want and steal all the rest of it. Right? That's how math works there. So, yeah, it's goofy that we're, smart people, not calling myself but smart, because I wasn't the only one who said this. Multiple other people were saying this. Brian Berletic. Oops. I don't know why that keeps happening with my camera, but I'm glad it's just my camera and not my mic. Hello? Okay. Well, now my camera doesn't want to start again. Cool. Fun. Let's see. Is that going to fix it? Well, at least you guys can hear me. All right. I'll move to the next article while I'm trying to figure this out. Sorry about that. Good old camera not wanting to work. All right. I'll just remove myself for now. All right. Hold on, everybody. I'm going to try to figure this out. What the hell was that, dude? My mic, my camera, everything just stopped working. It's hot in this room. Sorry, I'm sweating. All right. Sorry about that, guys. Holy crap. Are we back? Are we back? We're good. We're good. We're good. All right, here we go. Sorry about that. I don't know why it was like my mic was muted. I was here. I could do everything. Couldn't get my mic to work. Everything was fine with my computer. StreamYard, classic. Here we go. All right. Let me see. You guys actually donated, so let me answer these questions. Russia re-entry in northeastern Kharkov realistic? Yes, I think a Russian entry anywhere now is realistic. The Ukrainian army is so weak everywhere. I would expect that. Also, I would also expect the Ukrainians to try to enter into Russia again somewhere else, try to do a new Kursk, smaller, try to cause some chaos, get some reaction. So expect that as well. I really appreciate your unbiased commentary on the Ukraine war. Thank you. I appreciate it. I would say it's biased. I would say that I don't think anybody can be unbiased, but I try my best to give you guys the truth at least. So I appreciate that. Thank you for being in here, Green Gold. Yo, Scott, your analysis is neutral, fair to RU moderation at best, except how far this policy ever got RU. Per Putin, 1812, the war has been declared on the Russian world, so it is a war, must be declared on UA now, no more SO. Yeah, I think we're already in a war. I think that we're already there. I think that it doesn't really matter what you call it. If it's a full, if it looks like a war, it's a war, right? You have Iskanders dropping on Ukrainian intelligence buildings. Russia is hitting Ukrainian energy infrastructure. I don't know if you guys just want like war crimes, if that's what you mean. But the Russians are doing everything that they need to do right now to win. Their losses are replaceable. They are advancing faster than they have ever before. There's no word on negotiations. I don't get this whole weak Putin thing. He's actively fighting NATO in Ukraine, winning, making, European governments are now switching. It's looking like the AfD might win in Germany and stuff like that. It's a very goofy situation to say that Putin is being weak. No, Putin is winning, right? And winning is not always pretty. As a Chiefs fan, you know that winning isn't always pretty, but if you're always winning, it doesn't really matter how you're winning, right? And I'm not saying Putin is always winning, but in this situation right now in Ukraine, Putin is on the winning side, and he is going to continue doing exactly what he's doing until he wins completely, right? One of the big arguments right now is that the Russian economy is super close to like collapse or whatever, which people don't understand what a economy under pressure looks like and how much it actually takes to destroy an economy. I mean, look at Syria. Syria was under sanctions for what? 12 years, something like that. They had their entire wheat industry taken away, their entire oil industry taken away. And they still, the Syrian government still survived for years without that. I mean, they were hollow, weak, whatever. Russia's much different. Russia has trading partners. Russia has control over all of its own natural resources. So no, I don't get this weak conversation. I think Putin is being very smart in how he is waging this war, keeping his allies on side, creating new allies, turning to the Eastern market, and making the best of a situation where he is being attacked, and the West wants regime change in Russia. So no, I don't see this weakness. I don't see how invading Ukraine is weakness. I don't see how fighting a 3-year war is weakness. I know that you guys get frustrated with the timing. You want it to finish or something like that. I think everybody wants it to finish, but that's not real life. The wars take time, and especially wars where you have two nuclear superpowers, one being the hegemony, fighting in it and supporting it. It's going to take time, and you can't just go ballistic and do these radical, escalatory, extremist things to get it done. It doesn't work like that. It's not even going to help Russia. Them doing that is only going to create the means for Ukraine to propagandize it and then get further Western support. So I don't get this weakness stuff. It doesn't make sense to me. Never has. But I appreciate your comment, man. Lots of conflicting narratives spun by the West, both weak and aggressive enough to take the entire Europe. Yeah, it's as von Clausewitz always says, it's the Schrodinger's Russia. Right at the same time, they are both poised to push to Berlin and also the second best army in Ukraine, third best because the North Koreans are there apparently now. So yeah, there are these constantly conflicting narratives, and it's because it doesn't matter. It does not matter to the idiot, gullible, willfully ignorant Western demographic who is paying attention to this and reading these narratives, right? They don't know anything about Ukraine. They don't give a shit about Ukraine. They don't know anything about Russia. They don't give a shit about Russia. The only thing they know about Russia is what they've seen in Hollywood movies, right? Red Dawn, right? So they think that they're evil barbarians, whatever. And they don't need to actually believe anything. I mean, look at the Democrats and look at the Republicans. Look how they talk. I mean, you think narratives are strong narratives that don't have holes in them matter at all? No, nobody cares. Nobody gives a shit. Wolverines! Jacob is Scott's second given name? No, it's Aiden. Irish! It's an Irish name! I actually like Red Dawn. I liked both of them. I think Red Dawn is probably one of my favorite movies that I can just watch at any time. It's very good. Is being bald a requirement of being a Chiefs fan? No, just winning all the time. You know, Super Bowl rings, that sort of stuff. That's the requirement. So keep crying about it. You know what I mean? Rambo 3 was cool too. We're just talking about movies now. Awesome. I love it, guys. I love it. If you guys have any more questions, go ahead and get them in. Red Dawn 2 sucked. Yeah, it was terrible. Josh Peck was awful in acting in it, and North Korea was the primary aggressor. One of the greatest movies of all time. You do not come at me, dude. It is so good because of how bad it is. That's my opinion on it. Refs win for the refs win the games for the Chiefs. Yeah, that's why they had 2 interceptions today. They should have won by 2 scores. Hunt took a knee so that they could just run out the clock. Very unselfish play today. But no, they don't just win because of the Chiefs. They won today because they were the better team. Oh, I'm sorry. When the Raiders snapped the ball and they fumbled it when they should have just kicked the field goal, was that the Chiefs? Was that the refs winning for the Chiefs? Come on. I'm not killing you with the Chiefs fandom. Other people are bringing it up, and I'm just saying that they're the best team in the NFL, and you guys are all mad about it. Chiefs suck. Yeah, that they're 14-1. And they're back-to-back Super Bowl champions. You guys are goofy. Referees change into Chiefs uniforms. And yeah, you know what you guys sound like? You guys sound like pro-Ukrainians right now. That's what all the whiny chief, like the refs help the Chiefs. That's what you guys all sound like. Oh, it's the perfect analogy. I love it. You guys are funny. All right, I'm going to wrap it up there. Thank you everybody so much for coming in. Enjoy your Christmas and your New Year's. I will see you guys when I see you. I will continue posting, but I don't know how many live streams I'm going to be doing. Like I said, I'm going to be entertaining a lot of families. So I love you all so much. Please be safe. And please, everybody, I want to see you back in here when I get back. So don't do anything stupid. Take care of yourselves. And remember, that holidays are tough times for people. So if you have a bro that's alone this holiday season, make sure you reach out, invite them out to go get a beer or something like that. Take care of the people around you. It's what's important. All right. Be safe, and I will see you guys on the next one. Goodbye.